What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Personal Trainer Network. Today, I have a special guest here. I've been a fan of him for a while. He's been, doing his thing. I really like what he's about, and I started to reach out to him, and he replied back. So, if you're a fan of JK News, JK Party, the whole thing, you might know him, or the Genius Brain podcast with David So. You might have seen Nick on there as well. But for people who don't know, he does jujitsu. He's a personal trainer. He does a lot of kickboxing and like everything in the sort of the sun of like the sort of MMA world. He's somebody who knows a little bit about everything. So after this video, make sure you guys go check him out. His link will be in the description below. And I'll just have you introduce yourself as well, Nick. Tell us what you're about and what got you into fitness.
For sure. Thanks for having me on first. And I appreciate us having this conversation. This is I know I don't ever really get to do a lot of fitness stuff. So this is pretty cool. So I'm excited about it. So yeah, my name is Nick. I started training people since around 2014. So I started off as an amateur fighter and I wanted to start fighting. And I had a couple of head injuries. And I started to kind of get into to coaching a little bit more, right? Yeah. And the rest is history, man. And I just felt like I liked coaching a lot more than I did fighting and competing. And it's just a lot more fun for me, at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it, dude. It's just one of those stories where, you're thankful for how you started, but you're glad for how it ended, so. Yeah.
I totally understand that. I mean, like, I remember the first time I ever saw or came across anything that you did, I think I saw you, it was sparring with David, where you guys were doing.
Oh, yeah. And
I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I went on your Instagram and I checked. So I was like, oh, shoot, he's like a personal trainer. He does like kickboxing and stuff like that. So I started following you and I was like, this is dope. So when I saw what you were doing on your stories, like how you kind of try to help people, I was like, nobody really sees this side of him unless like you actually pay attention, which is dope because like this is sort of a realm that I'm interested in and I'm focused on.
Yeah.
It's really cool to like sort of see this different side of you that people don't really know as well,
Yeah, no, it's cool, man, because I probably don't post enough as much as I should, and everyone tells me that. And I'm trying to get better at it and just actually spend time and kind of just explaining that message that we're about, right? When we're trying to train people, when we're trying to coach people, because a lot of times, especially in fitness, people don't get the right message, So that's something that I feel passionate about, that I want to help people. And in terms of understanding how to not coach themselves, but how to kind of be self-sustainable, right? Because once you're in the fitness industry, you kind of understand how it goes. But if you're on the outside, I feel like it's really easy for you to fall victim to kind of the nonsense that's out there, So and especially when you train people too. So when you deal with clients, when you deal with people, it affects your job and affects your life and your day-to-day too, because how much time does it take for you to explain certain concepts to certain clients? But that's not the bad part. But what is hard is the barrier, right? It's like a massive misunderstanding of the actual truth in the data. And it shows itself in how people decide to train and their mentality about training. So once again, it's just another barrier for people to get through. And it's something that I really like having the conversation with people and just talking about training, man. It's just always fun, right? I'm sure you could talk about this stuff for days, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny. The first episode I did with the guy, Nigel, we actually talked after that we filmed the video for like another 2 hours because he said like, I don't really get to talk to people about it. Like, it's really dope because unless you have people who are interested in it and who are focused on it, they don't really know the nuances and the things that go into personal training. Like, you tell somebody you're a personal trainer and they look at you like, oh, right, and it doesn't seem that impressive. They don't really know what goes into it,
Yeah, no, definitely. We were, a lot of people get overlooked, especially when it comes to personal training. But but it is what it is. Like
Yeah.
that's the beauty about it, is like we enjoy what we do. We enjoy,
Mhm.
working with people. And man, I couldn't see myself doing any other job. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way too, where with all the people you get to meet and kind of the conversations that you get to have that you probably wouldn't get to have if you weren't a trainer, and so that's the cool part about it. That's the fun part. And the
Mhm.
training is just a bonus.
Exactly. Okay, so I have a couple questions here
Mhm.
from people that I know they want to ask a couple things to you and want to get your expertise on. So the first question is, what is the best method to cut weight without giving up on all the food that you want to eat?
Man, here's the thing. It's like whenever you're trying to diet or cut weight or whatever, there is always going to be an elimination of something,
Mhm.
right? Or a limiting of something, right? Because
Yep.
by nature, that's what we need to do. So I think once people kind of get over that, they realize that they don't really have to do too much to achieve that. Because what it is, it's very simple in theory of how to lose weight and how to create a calorie deficit for yourself. But the execution is where it gets a little tough, because there's so many different ways you can go with it. And kind of going back to what we talked about how there's so much misinformation out there, it's really easy when you are in the midst of a calorie deficit and 3 weeks in, you're like, you know what? Fuck, I should. Sorry, can I cuss? My bad. I'm sorry.
Fine, it's fine.
Uh, uh, and they're thinking, oh man, maybe I should do this to speed it up. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's like, to me, it's like I feel like calorie counting is probably the best way to do it, right? Because
Yeah.
there is a way where you can still eat mostly the foods that you need to eat and
Mhm.
enjoy some of the foods that you like, but people don't want to do the extra step,
Yep.
right? They don't want to do the extra step because tracking to a lot of people is the frequency of it, right? It's every day I got to log a little bit here and there, but in reality, once you start really tracking, it doesn't really take that long at all. It takes like 5 seconds. And but once again, it comes with practice. And I feel like a lot of people see that as a hassle and they're not willing to do that. So they'd rather do something very restrictive, something very simple for the brain to wrap around, where they don't have to think about all this stuff. So I say calorie counting is probably the best way to do it, because look, at the end of the day, it's like, is it going to be easier for you to lose weight if you're not eating McDonald's every day or cheeseburgers and stuff? Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier.
Mhm.
But there is a way to kind of still have your cake and eat it a little bit for the most part, but there is going to be an element of restriction.
Yeah.
There's just no other way around it, right? And we need that as human beings, because if it wasn't up to that, then we would just eat everything. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
just how it goes.
Yeah, I would just say just, because he basically said everything, but all I would say is if you want to lose weight, if you're looking to lose the extra weight that you have on yourself, you have to be in a caloric deficit, which is everything. Like every personal trainer is going to tell you that, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but what I would say also is you can have things in moderation. You have to be disciplined. Like, you don't necessarily have to completely cut things out of your diet, right?
yeah.
But if you're
Mhm.
having like multiple cupcakes a day, you're eating like
Yeah,
multiple bags
yeah,
of chips, things like
yeah.
that. Like that's not gonna help you get to where you want to get to.
Just
Um,
have half a bag. That's it. You don't
yeah,
have to eat all of it, just a little bit.
if you buy a bag, just get a bunch of Ziploc bags and then just put them.
Yeah,
You're good.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Portion it out, right?
you have
But
one
that's
of those,
that's it's not sexy though. It's not sexy. People don't want to hear that.
no,
They don't want to hear the things that they can come up with themselves.
exactly.
Sometimes they need to pay you for you to tell them
It's like
that.
tell them simple things and then they still are
Yeah.
like, what? They're like, that's all I have to do. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
And they look at you like you're crazy. They look
Yeah.
at you like you're there's something wrong with my trainer that I hired. But in reality, it's just you got to trust the process, right? That's
Mhm.
what it is, man. It really is that.
Okay, so second question is, how quickly will I start seeing the results of my training?
Man, it really depends, man. Like, and once again, it depends on how you're training, what kind
Yep.
of training you're doing. How many times have you had people where I had a conversation with my client today about how she would execute certain exercises,
Mhm.
and she's going through the motions, and she's like, oh, I did 12. But I'm like, did you really do 12 reps on that? Like, was that a good 12 reps? Like, what's the
Yeah.
quality on that? So it really depends on how hard you're training, what you're doing for training, and the frequency and the diet. It really comes down to everything, right? But if you are training hard, you're training properly with good form and technique, especially when it comes to strength training, right?
Mhm.
I feel like you could see results fairly quickly, at
Yeah.
least within 3 weeks or so. I think that's like the earliest time, but whether it's increases in results or like how much weight you lift or how much weight you move versus how you aesthetically look,
Mhm.
that is going to have a bigger variation.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person,
Mhm.
like I could cut out carbs or kind of go on a calorie deficit for a couple weeks and I could see results in like 3 weeks, easy, but some people, it might take them
lot
4
more.
months.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like some people, like when I started training David,
Mhm.
he was training for a month. First month, he only lost 2 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's fine. It's part of it. And then the second month, he didn't really lose any weight.
Exactly.
Third month, and he started just dropping, right? So it really is an accumulation of, I think, what you're doing
Mhm.
and how well you could stay consistent at it. I think that's the bread and butter right there. So it really depends.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, not everybody's going to have the same results. Like, what happens a lot of times is they'll go on social media, whether it's
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram, and they'll see a person lose weight and they'll be like, I'm going to do exactly the same thing that this person did. Right. But the reality is you are not the same person. Like, you guys have different genetics. So generally, depending on what you're doing, it may not affect you right away like it affects other people.
Yeah.
It's important to understand that. But what I would always tell people is take your time, do your best. You know your body. Nobody else knows your body but you.
Yeah.
So you gotta know what works best for you. And once you know what works best for you, then you can sort of start figuring it out, right? I think, like your example with David, it took that time because he had to get used to things, right? He had to get used to sort of the change in lifestyle, the frequency of working out as much, right? Because there's a lot of times it's more mental than anything.
Yep.
So,
and yeah, people just want a quick fix, right? People want to see they're putting all this time and effort into something and they're not seeing a return. So I understand why people get upset, but if they kind of understand the mechanisms and how the body works, like if people really understood how physiology really works, half the nonsense out there as far as like supplements or whatever the case may be, they would go out of business immediately, right?
Exactly,
like if they understood the mechanisms of how certain things work, it's easier for us because we study this stuff and we deal with it on a regular basis. But for the average consumer, they have no idea how certain physiology works, and they're all their information is based off what other people tell them or marketing or whatever. And then they're led to believe that if I put this electric stimulus pack on my stomach, I'm going to get 6-pack abs in a week or two. It's like, but if in reality, it's like, oh man, if only you knew, so it really comes down to where people kind of understand the concepts and I feel like it's the right message isn't portrayed enough,
Exactly.
It doesn't make money. That's all. That's what it is. It doesn't make enough money.
It's all about money though. That's the thing.
Yeah, right.
It is all about money. Okay, so the final question is, how can I build good habits on my fitness journey?
Man, this is a really underrated question. I feel this is probably the right question to ask, right? A lot of people ask, what's the best diet? What's the best workout plan? What's the best exercise for fat loss? And it's like, it really doesn't come to that. It really comes down to the habits that you build around that, right? And then what happens to your body, your progress is just a byproduct of those habits, the accumulation of those habits. So I would say is start small, start with manageable expectations and methods, right? Because how you start to lose weight or how you start to do your fitness plan is going to be very different than how I do it.
Yeah.
but I know what works for me. You know what works for you.
Mhm.
So it really comes down to starting small with the habits and building from there. And once again, we'll talk about a totally unsexy like explanation, like talk about something that nobody really wants to hear. But
Exactly. Yeah.
for some people, it's just like, all right, how many times have you worked with a client? And you're like, how many days do you want to train this week? And they'll be like 4 days.
Mhm.
Right. And they haven't really been training that much. They don't really have an exercise plan. But in their mind, the first week, 4 days is a fucking good idea.
Yep.
But in reality, one, how hard it is to set 4 days for working out and to get quality results in those workouts. Already uphill battle. And if you're not training hard enough, you don't train currently, and you don't really have a history with training that much of a history, then you're probably not going to be likely to stick to that 4 weeks and get a good result out of it. I mean, the 4 days out of the week, right? So I would say whatever it is to you, whether you're trying to just get one training session in a week, that's great. Whether you're trying to walk at least 10 minutes every single day, that's great. But as long as you can compound that over time, that's what really matters. And that's where the serious changes happen. It's never the people that are like, when I work with certain clients and we're trying to implement certain habits, it's usually the first week they look at what we're trying to work on and they're like, really, that's it? Are you sure? And that's how we kind of want it to be. We want it to be manageable. We wanted something small, because once regular life comes into play, that 4 days a week is out the fucking window, So it's really about seeing where you're at and how you can progress from there. Too many times people look at, like you said earlier, they compare on in social media, they compare on their favorite fitness person, right, on Instagram, and they're comparing their physique to their physique, and it's like it's a losing battle every single time. Like, oh, well, so and so works out 5 times a week, so I should too. But in reality, it's like he's an IBBF pro or whatever. It's like what are you talking about? So start small, and be patient, I think.
Exactly. That's really good advice. For me, what I always try to say with building good habits is set small goals that you can achieve over time, and that's going to help you create good habits. Because, for instance, like, let's say you go from not working out at all, just trying to work out. Working out 2 times in a week when you've never worked out before is amazing.
For real. Yeah.
Like, people don't really realize that. The thing is I'll be honest with you. Some of the trainers who say that they work out 4 or 5 days a week, it's because they're trying to maintain the physique that they have, or they're competing in competition or something. Like, they have a specific goal and purpose. They don't just work out for the sake of working out. They're trying to look a certain way, or they're like a personal trainer, or they're like power lifter or something like that, where they have the need to do that. The reality is you don't really need to work out more than 3 days a week. Unless obviously you're an athlete or something along those lines. So doing 2 days a week is very impressive. Working out for 30 minutes straight is impressive. How much people they go to the gym and they spend 2 hours, but they spend maybe 40 minutes working out of 2 hours.
Yeah, seriously. It's the long game, man. And that's the thing about like the health and wellness side of everything. That's how you got to think about it. It's like, how am I going to set myself up for the future? Right. And because you could work out one day a week, like once. You could work out 4 times in 1 week, but how often are you going to be able to recreate that over 6 months?
Exactly.
Right. A lot of people kind of don't think, and then you extrapolate that to even a year, it's going to be crazier. But then if you were to get the proper quality out of a training session within twice a week, you can make the gains that you probably wouldn't make if you were doing 4 times a week. Right. So it really comes down to how you do it and how to maximize your training and your nutrition. That's what it's all about, right? It's how do I maximize it for this individual person? Everyone's going to be slightly different. So man, it's the simple questions and simple answers that people need to hear. But unfortunately, it's
like you said, it's not sexy.
It's not sexy, man. It doesn't sell well. You know what I mean?
Exciting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's why we're here. We got to keep promoting that message and keep pushing it, because unfortunately there's not enough of people like us saying these types of messages with the platform of the people that say the opposite, right? The latter, right? It's all a bunch of good looking people that are fucking making hella money on
Mhm.
social media, which is fine, which is great.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it's unfortunately they don't really know what they're talking about a lot of the times.
They
You know,
really don't. I've
they really
watched so
don't.
many fitness videos where it's like, get a six pack in 10 days, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they don't actually explain what you're supposed to do or anything.
Mhm.
It's just like,
No.
do this workout. It's
Yep.
like, it doesn't help nothing, but
Yeah.
it just
Yeah. Or they're selling supplements like my boy V Shred. I'm sure you've seen that dude.
yeah,
He's on everyone's like, and it's so funny. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone so unanimously disliked by the fitness industry than that
exactly.
guy. You know, but
Mhm.
whatever, it is what it is. He's out there. He's making money, dude. He's
Yeah,
he's making his
that's
money.
true.
He's
Yeah.
selling nonsense, but he's making money. So hey,
A lot of
I
people
guess
are
I have a couple buddies that bought some of his supplements, and I'm like, all right, fuck it, go for it, whatever, do it.
exactly. So I want to thank Nick for being a part of this conversation. I really appreciate it. This guy, when I tell you guys, he makes awesome content, funny guy. Very
Thank you, man.
likable
Thank
guy.
you.
Make sure you guys go follow him. Do you have a YouTube channel or do you not?
I do. It's very bare bones, and
Hmm.
it's I only have a couple videos up there, but you can find me at Nick Dunn on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So I'll put that
Yeah,
in the link for the video when it comes.
Thank you.
And make sure you guys again go follow him. If you have any questions, ask him. Don't just ask me. Ask him. Trust me. He knows what he's talking about. Again, so thank you for being a part of this. And
Thank you for having me, man. It was fun. It was awesome.
Yeah. What I eventually want to do is I want to get back some of the other trainers that I have and just do a big grand discussion where we can talk fitness,
Yeah,
everything.
definitely. Let's do it.
If you're interested, let me know.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.